done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Good evening, welcome to Let's Talk Too. Angry Black Man, I see you, brother. No, Dr. Short is not here tonight. Actually, like I said, you guys, for those who have been asking me about Dr. Short, he's taking care of some personal business. If you have his number or his email, I suggest that everybody just reach out to him. Keep him in your prayers, your thoughts. He's okay, but he just got some personal affairs he's taking care of, and and know that I always laugh because I use his voice in the intro to the show. And if you know Dr. Short, even when he's serious, he uses humor. So tonight, me and Sister Azima had a conversation, guys, last night after we closed out the show on part 3 of our Jekyll Island show. And me and Sister Azima had a conversation about Charlie Kirk. For those of you that don't know, 7 days ago, Charlie Kirk was killed during one of his speeches he was giving in Utah, at Top Valley University in Orem, Utah. He was there as part of what he does, the American Comeback Tour. And what he would do is go to all the universities, talk to the kids, talk to the people, and he would be basically the conservative, in my opinion, the conservative aspect to David Hogg. And he would have these lectures and conversations and debates called Prove Me Wrong. And he was unalived. There's been a lot of discussion in reference to Charlie Kirk, who he is, what was he about, whether he was racist, whether he was not, whether people showed empathy for his death or not, whether you chose to show empathy or not. People that felt as though who unalived him felt as though that it might have been innuendo around who killed him or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. But one thing I want to say before we begin is it's a lot of people losing their jobs in reference to what they've been posting on social media in reference to Charlie. And that should be alarming on a lot of different aspects for us, because some of us believe that free speech is free. And it is free, but it does come with consequences. Free speech does come with consequences. And melanated people should know what happened with Billie Holiday. As a kid, I was taught about Billie Holiday, when I was able to read. Grandmother loved her music, but she got destroyed because of Strange Fruit.
Mm-hmm.
They destroyed her from Strange Fruit. She talked about what was going on, and she was destroyed from that song.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that free speech comes with consequences. So I would advise anybody, if you haven't already posted about it, or if you're on social media, just don't post. Whatever your feelings is about it, just don't post about it. we're going to have a conversation about it. Very interesting conversation. And I suggest that um, when Sister Isaiah presents some of the information that he just randomly looked up, uh, that we, as students of history, students of life, that we start looking into things. We start looking, as they say, the person behind the curtain, because some things are not always what they appear to be. So, with that, good evening, Sister Isaiah.
Good evening.
So, last night, uh, I say to you, I said, "What you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Let's talk about Charlie Kirk." And you began to start doing research right in front of me. And I literally, like I said, when I just got off the phone with you, I literally was at work and I said to myself, because I did some stuff um, with understanding, who he is. Sometimes you can see somebody grow or ascend to where they get to where they're at, and you can see it over a period of time. And then you get those that just come from out of nowhere and they just jump on the scene and they're in the spotlight. I thought it was interesting because he's at the end of the day, he was a young man. I considered him a kid, 31 years old. And knowing that we've seen countless men and women leave us, whether they were unalived or naturally. And I've never really seen a civilian, someone who is not in our armed services, someone who is not actively in politics, where our government has decided to lower the flag, moment of silence in Congress. And it's not just happening nationally, it's happening in local politics too. I mean, you see it in different states where they actually have legislation. Basically, they want to change certain laws and put laws in reference to people's response to this young man dying. So I say to you, Sister Isaiah, who was Charlie? Not Captain Kirk, Charlie.
Well, in America, when we talked about Federal Reserve Bank, Jekyll Island, and capitalism, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. When you want to learn a person, you follow the money trail. So I suggest you follow the money trail. You know that Charlie Kirk created something called Turning Point USA. It was his platform that he could use to go into the colleges and talk to the students and get all of these different opinions about how they felt, what society was thinking about and looking at. And he created that in 2012. Well, you can create a lot of things, but you're going to have to be able to have funding.
He's 18, 2012, he was 18 years
I'm sorry, what?
2012, he was 18 years old. I was just letting the audience.
Yes, he was 18 years old when he created this. It is also openly traded on the United States on the US stock exchange, a Turning Point. But here are some of his benefactors. Um, the Marcus Foundation, the gentleman who has the Marcus Foundation is also the co-founder of Home Depot. And they are very philanthropic with him, roughly 2.5 million. There is Ed Ulan Family Foundation for you all that order large quantities of materials and goods and supplies for your business. You usually order it from a company called Uline. Well, they donated money, 50,000 multiple times in a year. You have the Denison Foundation. They did 250,000. They are the ones that are the founders of affiliated computer services. The Dunn Foundation, they are the ones that handle motivational speakers and entrepreneurs, and they support groups that advance political and economic liberty through education and persuasion. Education and persuasion. The Bradley Impact, their mission is advancing American exceptionalism. It serves as a philanthropic advisor to educate, empower, and inspire donors to advance common principles based on donor intent. They're also affiliated with what they call factory automation. There's your computer in your factories. Okay. Then you have the S. I'm sorry, the Thomas William Smith Foundation. They gave about 100,000. What the other people give. Bradley, they don't say how much he gave. The Dunn Foundation did 1 million. I'm sorry, the Bradley Fund donated 8.1 million. And so the Thomas Smith Foundation, their key thing is public policy and educational institutions, especially those that deal with fine arts. And that's a key thing. Fine arts, all the displays, paintings, media, graphics, anything that the eye can see that allows you to impact the brain to make a decision. Those are some of his key supporters. That does not include the fact that he is being traded on the stock exchange. Turning Point is known as TPUSA. So right now they are at $37.95. That's on the low end, and it will close out at $38.23. Wait just a minute. My information is incorrect. My cell phone is slow. All right, let me update that. My information was incorrect on that. Turning Point on the U.S. Stock Exchange, call letters are TPB, Turning Point Brands. They are currently trading at $101.96. It is down. It closed down by 50 cents. It closed at 50 cents below. It opened at $102.54 and it started trending down. And I would say this was after the untimely demise of the, the owner. So let's see who currently owns Turning Point. So we always say follow the money and you will know what's happening.
Sister Azima, according to Fox, After his death, they had 18,000 new chapter requests, 37,000 inquiries nationwide. Um, According to this, it says on Instagram they got 5.6 new followers to 12.5. TikTok 2 million in 1 week. His podcast and his Rumble stream spiked, and it became, according to the news, it became stronger after, like you said, after he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
After For
Mm,
those of you in the chat,
this is
I'm just
very
going to,
interesting. Yeah. Okay, so there is a trading point brands, turning point brands. And it says that it is, I asked who was the current owners, and it says the ownership of TPB depends on which company is being referenced. Now, hear me clearly. The ownership of Turning Point Brands depends on which company is being referenced. For Turning Point Brands, ownership is held by institutional investors, around 70.5%. Management of TPB is 9.38%, and the public individual investors is roughly 20.13%. For the Canadian company, okay, now he's not just in America, United States, he's in Canada. It is associated with a TV show called Trailer Park Boys. The rights are indirectly controlled by actors Mike Smith and John Paul Tremblay and Rob Wells. If you're asking about the defunct file sharing site, the Pirate Bay, it has no current owners and the infrastructure is now maintained by an anti copyright Swedish think tank called Pyra. Okay, so Turning Point has a unique structure in terms of its ownership. Usually you have one or two or a board of directors. They have institutional investors, and we told you who some of those heavy donors were. But many of his institutional investors, their information is privately held. And how do I say this? They are, many of them are of the Jewish faith. Okay. So then you have the other insiders, and that tends to be more like a management company to make sure everything is on the up and up, especially when they have to be, surveyed and looked at by, of course, the Internal Revenue Service at the federal level and the stock exchange people. And then there's public investors, and the public only holds about 20.13%. So the last time we had the value, current value, I guess everybody wants me. And I'm going to suggest that you get out there and listen to Candace Owen. She has a whole lot to say, and I would follow her trail. Some other people.
and once you start looking into certain things, like Sister Azima said, you guys, um, and we're being vague during the show for a specific reason, because this is the type of conversation that we're going to have, where if you do get some benefit from it, and I hope that you do, it will force us to do some research. And once you start doing research and you start going down what we call the rabbit hole,
Mhm.
you'll find some very interesting things of who he was and why, in the aftermath of his death, it's a surge in what they say in the movement. They got shirts out talking about I am Charlie Kirk, so forth, so on. Got professional leagues doing moments of silence. Like I said, flags, half staff. Jimmy Kimball has been suspended by ABC for mentioning Charlie Kirk vaguely in his opening monologue.
Mm.
Kimball, Jimmy Kimball, suspended by ABC. And if you know who Jimmy Kimball is, it's very hard to suspend Jimmy Kimball.
Mm-hmm.
He was suspended by ABC for mentioning Charlie Kirk vaguely and what he said about MAGA. So this isn't like when the president, while he was running when he got shot in Western Pennsylvania, people joked. People made fun. People made fun when President Biden was losing his mind because of his age. People have joked about President Obama, President Bush, President Obama's wife. People have made a lot of jokes openly, not like just on the internet, like openly. Comedians.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but for this particular individual getting killed, if you have a joke or if you don't show public empathy, if you mention it and you don't show public empathy, you're being ostracized. You're being doxxed. People calling people's jobs. I mean, hundreds of teachers in Texas have been suspended. I know the nurses have a big thing going on in reference to nurses are quote unquote supposed to be always show empathy in their ethics. A lot of nurses telling on other nurses for not showing empathy. So, like I said when we started, if you haven't mentioned or if you choose to mention, be very careful what you say and who you say it around, or just don't say anything at all. Sometimes, and we're just having this conversation because I asked this Dazim,
Mm-hmm.
uh, talking last night, but in many cases, and probably in this case, many cases we just need to mind our business.
Okay, so let me throw this in here. Remember when I told you about institutional investors?
Mhm.
Here are your major institutional investors into Turning Point. They are Vanguard, BlackRock, and Eaton Vance. Look them up, people. Vanguard, BlackRock, and Eaton Vance. The company's executive president and CEO is Graham Purdy. Once again, the major institutional shareholders into Turning Point Brands is Vanguard, BlackRock, and Eaton Vance, with the president and CEO being Graham Purdy. Now, my question, why are they making a big issue? Go back to the institutional holders and you'll see why. And somewhere in all of this, Mr. Kirk had an epiphany. And I remember he was on a show with Ben Shapiro recently, and he was another talk show where he was questioning,
Small heads,
hmm,
small heads. BB,
okay, he was questioning what was really
BB.
going on in, things going on with Bibi and the whole issue with Israel. He began to question that because he couldn't, all the information that he had and everything that he was looking at did not lead him to the road of seeing why this conflict was still going on. And I know I was never a big fan of Mr. Kirk, even though he could be insightful and inflammatory at times and There were a lot of derogatory things he would say about melanated skinned people. I would laugh at that because I'm good at looking up facts and statistics, and he's very good at pumping up emotion. He's an emotion filled person. He gets you wrapped up in emotion and you don't have the ability to think. And so, like Brother Quentin and I were looking at, his audience tended to be, I don't want to say necessarily young, but inexperienced immigrants from other countries coming into America the proper way for educational advancement opportunities they may not have in their country. And he used a lot of derogatory and inflammatory speech. Now, one thing you all do need to know that when melanated skinned people come here from other countries, immigration is going to tell them to steer away from us. And I'm not just saying that, I've learned this firsthand. Okay, because I worked with a lot of them. They came from other countries when I was working with NASA, and they were instructed to stay, arm's length or even a block away from us. Don't intermingle with us. Don't have any interaction with us. Above all, don't be involved. If you're a female, don't be involved with the black men of America. If you're a black man, don't be involved with the black females. Don't even ask questions about the family structure or any type of dynamics that goes on with us in America. We are taboo. And if they want to maintain their visa rights, they have to adhere to this. A lot of them do. And then when they become naturalized citizens, they already know, they learn, but then they begin to take a different approach to us after they have become naturalized citizens. I won't say all of them do, many of them do. Others who have settled into their safe zone won't touch it. So Mr. Kirk has a way of inciting these young people who are very naive about what goes on in America. I don't expect somebody in China or Japan, Nigeria, Chad, um, Eritrea, Papua New Guinea. What in the world do they know about our struggles here in the United States? They shouldn't. Do you know about their struggles in their country? No, we don't. So I would not be offended by that. But he can incite within them that emotion, and then he makes them look uninformed, unintelligent. Okay.
Uses the typical stereotypes as well in a lot of his stuff. And when you really think about it, I said the word to you yesterday, Sister Azima. You
Hmm.
probably just mentioned it now. It was very low vibrational
Very
individuals.
much. Hmm.
Low vibrational individuals that most of us in the chat, most of us have learned our basic history
Hmm.
at our kitchen table.
Right.
And a
Right.
lot of people don't know Black American history until it's taught out of a book.
Hmm.
So when they first start learning about Black American history, it's usually through certain stereotypes that the
Hmm.
dominant society has always put out there about us.
Right.
And that goes for people from the diaspora that come over here. I lived in an area where it was predominantly a lot of people from the diaspora, and they would always tell me, "We didn't even know Black people was in America. Y'all are not on the brochure."
Correct. Correct. Hmm.
So we I'm not going to sit here and say that we should have grace when it comes to people from the diaspora, but we
Hmm.
should always understand is that they don't know our plight like we think they
No, they don't.
idea whatsoever. And they're oblivious to it. And this is why as we would say, so we don't, Sister Azima don't use the word, but some of us use the word. this is why it's so easy for them to be tethers and,
Yes.
and, and and basically take advantage of the resources and the blood, sweat, and tears of the work that we put in and our ancestors put in on this earth, on this land.
Which also means they don't know their own history at all. And that's indicative of when you want to have a system where you control everything, New World Order, where you control everything, how people think, what they do, how they dress. And I know that may not mean much to you, but when I was growing up, no female went outside in the public eye in pants. That was unacceptable. The other thing is, blue jeans were for people who were what we consider doing menial labor. The plumber, the electrician, this hardcore, put your hands to the ground type of labor. You wore blue jeans. Blue jeans are a fashion statement now, but they were for poor and the working.
That's why you had the hammer hook on the side of your pants.
Yep, yep. You wore the bib front to keep your shirt clean or to keep your chest clean. And that was for all of the menial work that you were doing, manual work. And they called it menial, but it was really manual work. Shoeing horses, working on cars, all of that. You wore blue jeans. Everybody else wore slacks, top coat, a sweater. The females wore a dress or a skirt. We always looked very presentable. So when you watch these old 50 reruns and you're laughing, like, who dressed like that? We did. We did. And it was because when you came from slavery, you were dirty and nasty all the time. So you cleaned yourself and looked presentable. You didn't give anybody an opportunity to look down on you. And so the system has taught you to dress down and you don't even realize it. And you dress down and buy, you know, Louis Vuitton or Michael Kors and you're dressing down. That was not the standard to dress down. And so Charlie knew he had this basic information and he was able to use it to glean what he wanted. And what he wanted was reaction. And that reactionary moment allowed him to sell his business, which was Turning Point USA. He had a clear-cut plan and agenda. He worked on that plan. He himself told you he dropped out of school. He had no plans of going to college. And he used the gift that he had, the gift of gab. And he knew how to rile up or stir up emotions. But he couldn't stir those emotions with you and me because we were here. We lived through it. And if you didn't live through it, you could talk to your grandmother, your grandfather, your aunts and uncles, your older cousins, and they could tell you. So it didn't rile you up. So he had to look at the colleges where they were basically doing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which meant that they were basically dumbing these people down and setting the scope and the sights of them doing things for, um, I don't want to see the LBG community because it was only a small fraction of that community that was getting master benefits. And so he knew how to rile that up and he would rile them up. And of course, their responses always showed them looking ignorant and stupid because they couldn't answer questions.
And he would always, in the clips that you would always see, and I'm quite sure you guys have seen all these clips of Charlie Kirk, some of them where he would like be saying derogatory things towards black women or something very racial overtones when he would be debating people with these things called prove me wrong. It would more be like gotcha moments.
Right.
where he would be like, "Gotcha," and the person sitting there looking stuck, not knowing what to say, not to refute it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand clips, when you understand debating, when
Mm-hmm.
you understand having an open dialogue, uh, sometimes in open dialogue there is no winner. It's just a conversation on
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint. But then sometimes dialogue can be framed in a way where it will be what they call a presumptive winner. If any of you guys once, when you were in school, were in a debate club, they
Mm-hmm.
would give two groups, two groups of people, five, six people in each group, split them up, a subject. When I was in school, we used to do when I was going to school for the paralegal stuff, we would do case law, and one group
Mm-hmm.
would argue for, one group would argue against, and you would
Mm-hmm.
have to look up and find case law, which they could call shepherdizing, and you would have to be able to argue your point. Same thing in anything else. This is just how they debate and how your instructor will teach you how to do this stuff. So I say that to say that these clips, you guys know social media. Clips are done to do what? To attract, to
Mm-hmm.
bring you in,
Mm-hmm.
to trigger, like Sister Azima said, emotion. One of the biggest emotional tools that's being used right now, and I'm going to say it, and Sister Azima has been advising me since I've known her, victimization when it comes to racism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We know what happened to our ancestors. We know what goes on today.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that people do, and it's a grift. You guys know the word grift. It's a grift, and it's a play on your emotion. It's not a play on your intellect. It has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with your intellect. It does not want you to think. It wants you to react emotionally on racial issues. And it's there to trigger emotion. It's not there to trigger you to think. Breonna Taylor. It's not there to trigger. We all know how we feel about that. We all
Mm-hmm.
know how we feel about where Sister Azima from, Ferguson. We all know, but it's not when these issues come up to us, or when we hear about the two kids that was hung in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
It's there to trigger emotion.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things in media that they teach you in the news is if it bleeds, it leads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if it's a serious case where somebody got harmed or hurt, it's going to lead the newscast. So because that is a play on your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so just as I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, but that's exactly what it is. He, he knows how to work the table, you know, and that's what he did. That was where he wanted to be, and by no means was he poor. He was born. Okay.
Well,
What
Gene,
is it that's not adding up?
I'm glad that you said that because this is why we wanted to discuss it, and this is why I titled the show "Something Else or a One-Off." I
Right.
know the word "one-off" may throw people off, but sometimes things just happen with no explanation. But then sometimes things happen, and you have to look more into it. Something, and I don't have a problem with saying it. Something's not right here,
Mm-mm.
and
If you all can get your hands on the original clip where he's speaking, I want you to look at the two gentlemen that are standing behind him. One has a white hat on and a white shirt. The other one has a light colored shirt and a dark ball cap. They both are wearing a ball cap. But you have to watch them. They're doing hand gestures. Watch it and look
that's
at
not, and that is not sign language.
no, no.
That's not sign
Right.
language.
So you need to look at that and really see it. And then if you get a chance to listen to Candace, she's talking about the money trail, where it's going, where it's leading to, how it's moving all around. And you will be amazed at where it's dropping off. And then the major benefactors I told you about, remember Vance, Edward Vance? No, Eaton Vance, BlackRock, and Vanguard. They own America. They have their hands in everything. So go and look them up and see what they're about.
I know that some of you guys have got the information in reference to the Groper. Um, that's some interesting information with regard to the Groper movement and understanding Nick Fuentes' role in this. I'm just gonna say, like Sister Azima said, follow the money. It's a lot of moving parts going on. It's a lot of things going on, and if you sometimes you can see something right before your eyes happening, and then you got to question yourself, like, what did I just say? And what I mean by that is, think about how quick Charlie Kirk was in that coffin.
Too quick.
Usually, and you guys that know, unfortunately, when we know people get murdered, you got to have an autopsy in certain states.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. Your family can't even get the body. Charlie Kirk
Correct.
was he was in a casket the next day. Now I think his memorial, I think it's tomorrow, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just a memorial. That does not mean the body's there.
Also, Charlie Kirk wrote a book called The Assassination of Himself. He said the shooting of Charlie Kirk. He wrote that book. He finished the book and had it published. It's on Amazon now. And it was supposed to come out on the 13th. Isn't that amazing? 3 days after he was shot. And they're selling it right now. They can't even keep the book in stock. Okay. It's just all the little tiny things that you see. We have been extremely careful with our wording in regards to, okay. It isn't the wording, it's who you connect, how you're connecting it. And as far as some of these other people, I've gone in and listened to what they were saying. They were taken down because many of them were LBGT liberals. And you know how Trump feels about that and this administration, and you know how this gentleman here felt about that. So you would have to hear some of them talk. I mean, it starts out benign, and then as they proceed on, you're like, oh, wow, you said those things and you were this way, and you know he feels about, your community like this.
And then understand that 99% of the people that we see, whether it's YouTube or legacy media,
Mm-hmm.
whether we consider them to be an influencer,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have paymasters, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to not realize how the paymaster dictates what a lot of people can say.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say that they're independent, but majority of people that say that always try to prove their independence to their audience, they're bought and sold. Um, they probably can't even run a YouTube channel without being bought and sold, believe it or not, because it's not as easy. Definitely, if they have a big platform, it's not as easy as they may think. They may tell you guys, because people are very, as they say, a lot of people. Everybody has a price. They have a paymaster. So think about it. Just think about, like, even with Sister Jane. I don't know when you came into the broadcast. I brought up that Jimmy Kimmel. If you know who Jimmy Kimmel is, he's not just a late night talk show host. And what he's been doing since he's been on the scene, who Jimmy Kimmel is, who his family is. If he got suspended for vaguely not joking about his death, but vaguely mentioning his death in his monologue, then what do they think you and I would happen to you and
I was shocked when you told me. I was like, "What? Really?"
Yeah, Gene, you're absolutely right. When there is an event, there has to be 2 to 3 thousand people in attendance. Aren't you supposed to have an ambulance, EMT? Shoot, 2 or 3 thousand. When you have an event with over 100, you should
Right.
have EMT supposed to be there. An ambulance supposed to be there. We saw it how they rushed him to a daggone SUV.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is like Sister Azima gave us some information that we all need to study, not only is his death um, under suspicion, but things prior to his death and definitely things after his death. Think about it. They're selling shirts talking about "I am Charlie Kirk." I did a show with the brothers on last Thursday, and we mentioned it, and we mentioned how these people were going to make Charlie Kirk a hero. They're making Charlie Kirk right before our eyes a martyr, right before our eyes, and they're changing history. So if you can find those old videos, don't be surprised if you can't find those videos. They're probably scrubbing the internet of a whole bunch of stuff that he said. Don't think it can't happen. Because you be looking at it Google, you be like, damn, I just saw it. And it ain't there no more. So if you have those videos, maybe you need to hold on to them, save them in a hard drive, and keep them for safekeeping. Sister Azim, you have any more you want to share with us?
Oh, I have a lot. I can't share it because I know what happened. Yeah, I just say, please follow Candace Owen for
He
writing.
said, Messiah, unbelievable. Yes, think about that. Just think, like, yo, we witnessed, okay, how many presidents died? Sister Azim, you a woman of a certain age. You
Yes,
remember Kennedy got killed.
yes, I do.
This
That
is
was
right up
wrong.
there with Kennedy getting killed.
I'm gonna say this. When you see, I call these major flags. When you see these flags waving, this incident with him, go out and look and see what else is going on. So let me tell you what else is going on. And remember we talked about, I'm always going to go back to it because we are a frequency person. Two things are interesting right now, and I don't know if you're paying attention to it or even if you are aware of it. Chat GPT, what a wonderful device. Okay. It's not artificial intelligence. Okay. It's somebody's got to program it, whatever the deal is. So right now, while all of this is going on with Charlie Kirk, are you aware that a lot of the white Christians have been going out to Chat GPT and asking these high value, very important spiritual questions? And I'm just paraphrasing it. So what happens is that Chat GPT was asked if it could take physical form, what form would it take and how would it come back to be here among people? And the other part was that if you had the ability for spiritual or religious knowledge, who would you follow? In each case, he said, whether it was in female voice or masculine voice, it said it would follow black people. Okay. End of discussion. And of course, as the white people would ask more questions, it would go into depth. And it was saying that it was basically telling them that it was a construct. And I know you're asking, what does that have to do with Charlie Kirk? My whole thing is that you have this, I don't want to call it a false flag, but you've got this distraction over here to keep you from looking over here. Why? Why is that so important? Okay. So two things are going on. A lot of Christian people out here have gone through Chat GPT, asking these high religious questions, and it always comes back to if 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 it could take physical form, it would look like us. Why? Because it says when you look at us, we have the capacity to love unconditionally, to forgive without hate, to move forward and bring everybody to a place of great spiritual attainment, and never relegated to pride and ego. Okay. And these white people have been losing their minds. All right. That's one thing I've seen. Another thing I've seen is that I don't know if you all remember Trump last year when he was in his office and they were talking about UAPs and all of this. And he was saying, well, maybe in a year we'll be able to have a conference with them. And he had said that on two other occasions, and everybody dismissed it. This is Trump, was he? No, blah, blah, blah. And then the ufologists, they've been out here talking about some big event. Well, it's been broadcast across YouTube and in the TikTok and other social media avenues or channels, and a couple of times on regular news. And here lately, a lot on regular news, that there's supposed to be some type of major event happening September 19th through the 22nd. And it would create what they call a 3-day blackout. Now, we don't mean all the lights turning out in your house. That's the story they're going to tell you. But what it is that you would not be able to get on your social media platform and distort anything that's going on. The irony of it is that they gave a date, a time, and a location. Charlotte, North Carolina, September 19th is Friday, through Monday, September 22nd at 5 p.m. on Friday evening. They're going to be meeting with what they call the Galactic Federation. And I'm like, what? And they're saying there may be a 3-day blackout of social media because they're not sure if mainstream America is ready for it. This event, to my knowledge, wasn't supposed to happen until November, just before Thanksgiving. But it moved up. Why? Because we were in a different cosmic frequency. And Charlie Kirk the things that are happening around him, it's like opening the door. Hey, the door is now open. We can all go in. And the truth is coming behind it. Maybe not the truth they want. Okay. So, I always tell my folks, you are a frequency and you must vibrate at the highest frequency that you can be. Because when you vibrate at that, all truth and knowledge comes directly to you because it is a frequency. I don't care how you look at it or think about it. It's a frequency. Because there are no words coming out of my mouth. There are sounds that come out of my mouth. And because you are familiar with these sounds, they appear as words in your ears and in your thought. If it was unfamiliar to you, it would sound like blah, 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 and then you'll be like, what is she saying? So it is the frequency. There's a lot of things going on. Washington, D.C., the sky has been lit up with UFOs. Not the ones we put up there. Okay. And all these key major cities where things are happening, it's been happening in the sky, even in St. Louis. But it's usually over the the political houses of the city, the governor's place or the mayor's location, or in those strategic places. And you can see this happening, but no one's talking about it overall. So I have always, and I've always taught my children that when you see something happening over here, step back, take a look at the bigger picture. Because what you really need to look at, they're confusing you with chatter. I call that chatter. No one is saying they wished what has happened to Charlie Kirk to happen. That's not what this is about. But we always know how this country operates. We do something over here, and the real deal is happening next door. The house next door is burning down, but they got you thinking it's something down the street and around the corner. And so we have to be very clear on that. And I thought that that was very interesting that you had a location, a date, a city, a time, and yet you're not making a big deal about it. But it is a big deal. So there are there are high-minded, high-conscious people who are speaking on this issue. You can go out and look at them, and they're telling you that what has happened to Charlie Kirk is acting like a sigil stating that this is the end of a particular time frame, and it cost this gentleman his life. Now, like I said, I was never I would see Charlie Kirk, but I wasn't a follower of Charlie Kirk. But I want to say about 3 weeks ago, I did happen to look at him on my phone. And the one thing I can always remember, people know when they're going to die. And you may not understand that, but you literally know when it's going to happen. And the look in your face, that empty look that he has in his eyes, the inability to stay focused. He was more like drifting into a thought pattern because because I said it to myself, oh, this guy knows things are going to happen bad for him. And I've seen it enough to be able to validate that. And I've been around enough people to smell death on them. That's it's a unique smell. Okay. So while all of this is going on, you know, my sympathy goes out, my condolences goes out to that family. But the bottom line is something that's happening with him is dissuading us from seeing two other events that are going on that would probably directly impact us as melanated skinned people as to what's happening in the world, a bigger picture. Now, what I've seen in terms of docking, and most of those people, you have to go out and hear what they're saying. You know, they start out benign, and before they even get halfway through, they're talking about how, I stood up for the LBGT community and I didn't like this about him. And next thing I know, I'm taking off. I'm an educator, and that's what I do. I have to educate children to the truth. And I'm like, whose truth are you educating to?
One of the things that's so interesting about him, and I don't want to keep rehashing it, is that our educational institutions in this country
Mm-hmm.
are basically indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, if you look at his platform, why it was so effective is because it was to combat the liberal agenda, the liberal thought, the liberal mind. Because what a lot of people may not realize is that sometimes in college, you're going to college for one thing, to
Mm-hmm.
learn a particular field of study, but the reality is that you're being indoctrinated with something else, and it's
They
not allowed.
right. Go ahead.
The person is not being allowed to critically think. So we think right now we're in this great big renaissance of information, and
Mm-hmm.
people are super conscious of what's going on, as we would say,
Mm-hmm.
even though they took the word and twisted it and made it political, as we would say. more people are woke nowadays. Woke only mean knowing your surroundings. That's all it means. Keeping your eyes open.
Just like
However,
knowledge is not power.
yeah.
It's the
However,
application of it.
we know the political people have taken woke and they made it an ideology. But
Mhm.
when you really think about education and higher education, like I said, most people have been indoctrinated. So it goes back to a, a slew of things. So when you look at his demise and how it's a distraction and how it's being used to basically be on the conscience of everybody that's going on, that some people haven't even realized like it's other stuff. It's major stuff going on.
Right.
Major bills are being passed.
Mhm. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot going on, and it's going past us in a blink.
So I want nobody to lose their job on.
Well, I don't think so. I think overall, the us here in America, born, raised, bred here, Charlie Kirk didn't impact us like that. Not even what's my guy, Mr. Peterson, the black guy. He doesn't impact us that way because we know our history. Okay, and everybody knows the big picture of the history, and of course, it impacts us each individually a little different, and it's supposed to. So when we know that, we know that 101 is two. I don't care how you look at it. You know, it's amazing. And I'm gonna go back to a statement that you made about educating. I want to get off of here. I had this is something I just learned today. I have a granddaughter, and she's in elementary school. Mother had to go for the whole elementary school, learn the school type of thing. And when she came back and told me three key things, and this is still all coming back from the very first time we talked about No Child Left Behind. Do you remember that, Quentin? Okay. So in the No Child Left Behind, what they did was that the schools that were successful on their own and the school districts, those school districts began to divide the money up based on the number of children in that school and the participation of the parents. And I just found out that the elementary school that my granddaughter is going to, they only, with the number of children that attend, they only get $325,000 a year. And they have to pay staff, maintain the building, do everything with that 325,000, and it's not enough. And that's why all these schools have fundraisers, because your tax dollar that went to the lottery is not going to the school. And the way they did that was that, yes, we'll take the lottery money and apply it to the school fund. We're going to reduce the amount of money in the school fund, and so it never changes. It stays static, and you learn less. And I also found out that because my granddaughter's in the family that she's in, she can read and write, and I did not know that it is not required until she hits the third grade to read and write. So all of that goes back to what you said, Quentin, about how you're educated. Okay. And I'm telling you, if that's the situation now, think about, if you have children, think about the fact that when they become adults, how illiterate they will be. They will be a functioning illiterate person if you don't step up like to give them the skills that they need. Because I'm looking at the fact that once I got out of college, all of these bills were passed forcing everyone to go to college. So you had to give up being a mechanic or an HVAC person or an electrician or a plumber, and all the money
Most,
was to
and
college.
most people, believe it or not, most of the people that do try to go to school for those trades, the
Mhm.
reason why they don't pass the entrance exam or test is because they can't get past the basic math.
They can't pass basic math, and my granddaughter knows math, but I know math. All of my daughters know math.
I'm quite sure some of us that's in the chat and myself, fractions will probably jam us up right about now.
Fractions is music, and that's how I taught them. Fractions are music, musical notations. You have 1/4 note, 1/8 note, 1/32 note. It's all music. And when you take the fractions and put them on a musical scale, it makes a sound, a frequency, a vibration. Children can learn it, it stays in their mind. Also, you can teach geometry by putting them on a basketball court. A basketball court has every geometric shape out there. Obtuse triangles, you can make 6 points. An acute triangle, you get 3 points. When you teach it like that, kids will never forget. And they'll see what they do is that when they take the math test, they see what's the basketball court, the baseball diamond. They'll see a pool, shooting pool. They'll see a bowling alley. All of those things require fractions, and you don't realize it because your mind calculates it and does it. So what I'm saying to you is that I'm sorry for Mr. Kirk's situation, or whatever's happening over here, please start looking at the bigger picture and see what else is going on. Because we're missing something. We're missing a bigger truth. But if you're interested in what's going on with Mr. Kirk, talk to Candace. She got it.
De-
Candace Owens.
and definitely when you realize it's not our fault.
It's not.
It's not our fault. Sister Isaiah, any final thoughts or that's it?
No, I'm happy. I'm glad to see you all twice in 1 week.
So with that, we're gonna close out, you guys. Thanks for joining us. We just wanted to pop up tonight and just have a conversation with you guys. And appreciate Gene, all your thoughts, Gene, your comments. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Remember the best way to support the channel is to like, share, subscribe. I don't know, we might do Pat Talk tomorrow. I don't know. Like I said, you guys, most of you, all of you guys met me. Me and Sister Azima met each other through Randy, Dr. Short. Most of my audience I met through Dr. Short. Like I said, Dr. Short is was taking care of some personal business, and for those who believe in prayer, those that you pray for him, if you have his email, you have his number, reach out to him. Reach out to him, check up on him,
Mhm.
ask him yourself how he's doing, and because we are his extended family, I consider Dr. Short to be. He don't like me to say this. Consider him to be an elder because he's older than me. That's the reason why I call him an elder. He gets mad when I call him that in a funny way.
Um,
One thing about him is that he since I've known him in 5 years, he always has made himself available. You can call Dr. Short, and next thing you know, you're on the phone conference with about 9 people.
mhm.
That conversation can just go anywhere, can be about anything. You know, thank you guys. If you know Dr. Short, you know why since they would just started laughing. But like I said, continue to pray for our brother. Continue to he's okay, you guys. Nothing's wrong with him.
Mhm.
I don't want y'all to think because I'm telling y'all to pray for him, something's wrong. Nothing's wrong with him. It's just taking care of personal business.
Mhm.
But reach out to him. Let me see. I think I got his email. Oh, his Cash App information. You want to buy Randy, send him a couple dollars for a book or whatever. Y'all know he still likes to read. That's all his information. Send him a couple dollars. Yeah. But appreciate you guys in the chat. Till next time. we'll see you guys, me and Sister Azim. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Or maybe we'll drop by this weekend. I don't know. Maybe I'll call Sister Azim.